Joining me now is former Defense Secretary Robert Gates. He has served 8 U.S. presidents, including most recently as Secretary of Defense for both Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Secretary Gates is currently president of the Boy Scouts of America. Secretary Gates is out with a new book, A Passion for Leadership, Lessons on Change and Reform from 50 Years of Public Service. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Jake.
So I want to get to your book in a second, but first I want to get your thoughts on this breaking news. Obviously, this attack in Pakistan, very troubling. And the Taliban in both Pakistan and Afghanistan seems to be regaining control and power in both Pakistan and in major portions of Afghanistan. Now, Army General John Campbell says the U.S. should keep the current force level, 9,800 U.S. troops there, and delay that reduction. There's a reduction scheduled to 5,500 scheduled for a year from now, as long as possible. How many troops do you think the U.S. should have in Afghanistan?
Well, I would defer to the military's judgment on that. I think that the numbers that General Campbell is talking about, 9,000 to 10,000, gives you a critical mass in terms of being able to provide training and advising to the Afghan security forces, some opportunities for our own special operations forces, and also gives you enough people to have helicopter capabilities and be able to play an effective counterterrorism role. So I applauded the President's decision not to terminate our military presence at the end of this year in Afghanistan, and I hope that he will show some flexibility in terms of General Campbell's recommendation to keep the numbers about where they are.
Let's turn to the fight against ISIS. Senator Ted Cruz talks about carpet bombing the terrorist group. Donald Trump says we should, quote, bomb the hell out of them. Now, you write in your book that a leader is, quote, someone who guides, one who shows the way. Are you hearing the kind of leadership you respect from the campaign trail?
No, because I think people are not, some of the candidates are not being honest with the American people in offering simplistic solutions to what are difficult and complex problems. The reality is the fight against ISIS is going to be hard. It's going to take quite a while. Carpet bombing or large-scale bombing of any kind is first of all, it's not the way Americans fight wars. And it would not accomplish the objective of liberating these areas that ISIS has taken control of. So I think a leader is honest with people in terms of identifying problems that need to be dealt with and realistic approaches to how to deal with them. And if sacrifice is going to be involved, warning of that as well. There are no cheap and easy solutions to most of these problems that we have.
One of the interesting things in your book, you talk about all the different kinds of leadership roles you've had, as well as the individuals you've served under, including President Obama. You have a lot of nice things to say about President Obama, but you're also a bit critical because you say that he didn't delegate enough and he centralized leadership in his administration too much in the White House. What results did you see of that kind of leadership style that didn't serve him well?
Well, I think when you centralize operational execution of decisions that a leader has made, you do need to choose your lieutenants carefully, your subordinates. You need to empower them, and then you need to hold them accountable. But you can't try and do the job for them. You can't micromanage them, and I think it's had some consequences in foreign policy. I think centralizing these things in the White House is, for example, had an effect on the problems associated with rolling out the Obamacare Affordable Care Act website. I think the White House has been much too involved in sort of operational, day-to-day planning of specific military activities that has reduced their effectiveness.
The book is called A Passion for Leadership, Lessons on Change and Reform from 50 Years of Public Service. It's a great read. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, thanks so much for being here.